Hello again from the Philippines. So this week I was right smack dab in the eye of Typhoon Tino. I went to a group of islands called the Camotes Islands on Sunday, and that just happened to be right in the path of Typhoon Tino. So I got to experience a typhoon for the first time and be right in the middle of it. So they call them hurricanes in the U.S. when they come off the Atlantic, but they call these storms in the Pacific. They call them typhoons. And Typhoon Tino was equivalent to about a Category 1 hurricane, so strong enough to do some damage and flooding in areas, but not didn't necessarily have the strength to need to board up and hide in your bathroom, or there was no evacuation orders or anything like that. Still pretty strong though, but mostly just really strong wind and rain. But even still, if that was a Category 1, I'm not really sure I want to know what a 2, 3, and 4 super typhoon would be like, because it was pretty intense. So I can't quite imagine some of these stronger typhoons. So again, I went to Camotes on Sunday, and I knew there was a typhoon coming because I was looking at the news. I had heard about it, but reports on Sunday were not very clear, and there was a lot of false and unverified reporting happening. A lot of people were freaking out, saying it was going to be a lot bigger than it really was, and the general direction of the typhoon was kind of predicted to go somewhere else. So I didn't think that, I knew there's most likely going to be a lot of rain, but I didn't think that, I didn't expect that the typhoon would actually be going directly to me. Anyway, so it's quite an experience. And yeah, again, this is my first time experiencing a typhoon like this or something like this. I've never been through a storm of this magnitude. So it was a pretty wild experience. And everything was okay in the end. I didn't lose anything except a bit of sleep. Turns out it's pretty hard to sleep during a hurricane or a typhoon. But all in all, didn't lose any of my personal things, and I wasn't hurt. So on Monday, November 3rd, signal number 3 was declared at some point during that day, but was quickly upgraded to signal number 4. And that's just how they categorize the severity of the exposure to the typhoon. Signal number 4 is raised if the wind speeds are expected to be around 70 to 115 miles per hour. And so that was basically what I was experiencing, was probably about 100-mile-an-hour winds. Before nightfall, we were already under signal number 4. The maximum is signal number 5, so we were pretty close to like the maximum signal, the maximum danger. So yeah, things didn't really start getting going until about 6 p.m. That's when the wind started to pick up, and it started raining pretty hard. And as the night went on, things intensified. As the night progressed, the winds picked up and the rain came down harder. So my room was a beachfront room, so I was looking over the beach, and since the storm rotates counterclockwise, I was on the windward side of the storm. So basically the wind was going straight into my window, and I was essentially feeling the full intensity of the 100-mile-an-hour winds hitting my window. And pretty much all night for the next several hours, the wind howled through my window, and there was a bit of water that was leaking in. That's pretty much. I just hung out in my room and listened to the wind bash my window all night.
The waves are splashing from all the way out there and hitting the window.
At about 3:45, the storm died down almost completely, except for a little wind and rain. And I was wondering if it had moved on, if the storm was if it was over. But in about 20 minutes, maybe 25 minutes, everything roared back to life. The winds came down, the rains were back, and everything just went right back to full intensity. And I realized that I was actually just in the eye of the typhoon, that the literal eye of the typhoon was right over me and was passing by. Power went out around 4 a.m. Internet was out long before that. But when the eye of the storm was basically on top of me, I was able to get a little bit of mobile data from on my phone. And so I went onto Google and got a quick update of the storm. And this is what I saw. Pretty much Google was saying that the storm was right on top of me, which was pretty phenomenal. So once the eye passed over, the winds came from the other side. So now I was on the leeward side of the storm, which meant that the winds had shifted direction and were now hitting the opposite side of my building or my room, and they were no longer, slamming up against the window. And so it was a lot less intense at that point. I didn't really, experience the full force of everything. And it was about 4:30 a.m. at that point, and I felt a lot safer with the storm being kind of passing over and the winds changing. So I fell asleep. I was pretty tired. I've been up all night, and I basically crashed out until about 8 o'clock in the morning. When I woke up, I woke up to water all over my floor, and it had leaked through the seals of the windows. There wasn't a whole lot of water, but as you can see here, there's a little bit of a puddle as I woke up. And outside, things weren't too worse for wear.
Good morning, Philippines. Good morning, Camotes Island. It's good to see you made it through the night.
There was a ton of seaweed that had been washed up from the ocean on the beach. There were some broken branches around, but no significant damage. The place seemed to handle it pretty well. There was quite a bit of damage in the surrounding areas outside the resort and down the road, and there were a lot of people clearing away debris and moving branches out of the way. There were down trees and a couple of down power lines, and just stuff all over the road, just leaves, coconuts, and branches, and all the ferries were shut down for the rest of the day. The Coast Guard had to go and clear things, so the shipping operations had to wait for the Coast Guard to give clearance to resume operations. But the next day, I was able to get on a ferry and go back to a city called Danao, where at least I could get on the Cebu mainland and try and find a bus or a van or taxi or something to get back home. So I was able to find a van for about 250 pesos to get back to Cebu. However, things were still an absolute disaster when I got back there. And I suppose I should have known that things were going to be this bad. But anyway, for 250 pesos, I was able to get a van. But just like me, there was a lot of other people that wanted to get back to Cebu. And there was traffic for probably 75% of the way, just back to back gridlock traffic a good portion of the way, and it took 6 hours to make that 1 hour drive from Danao back to the bus station in Cebu. In retrospect, I probably should have stayed just a couple more days in Camotes, just to let everything kind of die down and let the people clear things up. But I wanted to get back home and make sure my condo was okay. But unfortunately, I wasn't able to do any other adventures in Camotes. I figured everything would have been washed up and unavailable, and people would be in recovery mode, and so I didn't really think it was a good time to go out and tour and do adventures and stuff. So anyway, I'll have to return to Camotes someday and see what it has to offer. And I'll talk to you soon.